All right, last disclaimer, folks. Those of you who have not watched episodes 1 through 8, you absolutely need them in order to understand the magnitude and impact of what I'm talking about in this episode. So if you didn't watch the others first, you're kind of going to be like, neat. But if you watched them all, you're going to be... I am so sorry. This is a hard one. I want to be celebratory over this. I do. We're finally here. But I also know how hard this one is. How much it tears down, pulls in an opposing direction. How easy it is to simply discard it and not go through with it. And you can choose to ignore it. That's an option on the table. You can set it down and let the rest of the world do something it does at a expert level and distract you. And before you know it, you haven't thought of it in weeks. But then you might see something, a commercial on TV or a strange interaction with another person, but the meat of the message that I'm about to impart to you will swim up from the inky black of the subconscious and remind you of itself. Make no mistake, you will know this next bit of knowledge for the rest of your life. You may choose to run from it, but if you do stop running, and sometimes even if you don't, it will be there, and it will stare you down. So I'm here today not just to talk about it and to explain it to you, but to ask that you face it. And I need to ask you to do this because to walk toward it is utterly terrifying. We're going to get to why you have nothing to fear from that terror, though it's palpable and real as hell looking, but it's not something that can hurt you. But if you do choose to walk in its direction, especially at the very first, when the initial decision to do so is made, you're going to start glimpsing looks the most valuable of the go-afterable prizes. You got love, internal peace, fulfillment, genuine savory, happiness and contentment, and feeling important. And a little bit here when that fear of the unknown starts to rear its head and starts yelling for you to put this down quick, I'm going to need you to trust me, to put your faith in me and put it in whatever it is that created all of this, designed and made the designs, and that made part of you in its image. And you may have disagreed a time or two with me on the channel. That's fine. It's cool. Of course you did. Without all the pieces put together, they are totally arguable. But once you have all of it and you see how it fits together, you have everything you need to get started. You may not feel like it, but you will. But even after the breaking laugh, there's still the rest of it that we've got to get to before everything falls into place and that it makes its collective sense. As I've said before, this is a rather nebulous mass of concepts that intersupport and lead to one another. So we've got to finish all of this before you can really get started, so to speak, with confidence. AKA, you won't have everything that you'll need to face down what I'm asking you to face down at the time that I ask you to face it down. So I'm going to ask you to trust me. I've gotten us this far, and I'm going to need you to lean into your faith in me pretty soon. So I need you to say it with me. I am absolutely serious here. Please say it out loud. Will, I trust you. You've already seen some of what I've found, and I promise you, the only thing that I have to gain from you walking towards it is your happiness, your peace, you loving more, and for all of us to be gifted a better person. So please, trust me. You have this. You can do this. We've got this. Okay. Now, I asked you a question in the last episode. How would one go about living against their design? What would that be like? What would that feel like? Well, you're going directly against a series of systems within a series of systems that are within a series of systems, and all of which are designed in ways to support living as you were designed to. They're all designed to support each other, so you'd feel a bit broken, I imagine, or inefficient. There would definitely be some part of you that would know that you were acting against your design and that you weren't being a part of the cacophony in a way that improves its outcome like you could be. In fact, the more outside of your design that you are living, I'd imagine, the less important you would actually feel. You'd likely have a fair amount of doubts about your self-worth. I'd imagine it would play hell with your psyche as well as your conscience, and you might just feel like you're living with a bit of a wound that won't close, like there's a wrong in you that never quite rights, like chronic back pain of the soul.
My back!
Now, if you didn't do it on the last video, take a second. Put in the comments what you think it would be like. Now, when I revealed the answer to the riddle of the missing sound, the genuine laugh, way back when, you most likely thought to yourself that the genuine laugh, the laugh we laugh when we love aimlessly, is by far not the primary laugh we make these days, and you would be correct. Now, the laugh that you most likely thought of and are probably most familiar with is some variation of the breaking laugh. So I found the start of this theory in a book by Robert Heinlein called Stranger in a Strange Land. It's about this person who is raised completely apart from humanity and was then introduced to other humans for the first time in his 30s. So this is a fully grown adult with a fully developed brain, seeing human beings for the first time in his life. Well, the main character sets forth to try and figure out what it is to be human and basically the reasoning behind why we are the way that we are, and to find the logic in why we do the things that we do the way that we do them. One thing that vexes this character the most is, even though after some time has passed and he feels he just about understands every level of human behavior and motivation, he still doesn't understand humor and feels no compulsion to laugh. In fact, this is the one thing that keeps him from understanding human beings in his mind and keeps him from feeling like people. So one day he's at the zoo visiting the monkey house, and he witnesses an injustice happen to this ape, who then turns around and takes out its frustrations on a much smaller, younger, and more defenseless ape. And the character completely loses it, laughing so hard that his lips actually start to turn blue. And he shouts, I know why you laugh. I finally feel like people. And when his partner asks him why people laugh, he states, you laugh because it hurts so much, and because it's the only thing that makes the hurting stop. That quote stuck like a glass sliver in my brain for 3.5 years. He then goes on to state that all gut-bustingly funny jokes have a victim. Someone that falls by way of misfortune. Someone that undergoes an embarrassment, who fails. Someone that gets hurt when things go impossibly wrong for someone. We laugh at the misfortune of others. Sure, we also laugh at jokes that are rooted in surprise and or a clever turn of phrase. And of course, we still have the genuine laugh. But we also make jokes that deal with someone's embarrassment or that deal with someone that we should have a great deal of compassion for. We make jokes about the deaf,
What are you, deaf?
the blind, the mentally disabled, the starving
We
Ethiopians.
now return to Ethiopian hoarders. I don't know how it got like this.
Corruption of children's innocence, rape, the poor,
Hey, are you Dirty Mike and the boys?
How you know who we are?
the morbidly obese,
Stop it! Leave it alone.
I overheard something about your mama on that note, but now's not the time.
This?
Infidelity, divorce, and the pettiness that can be born out of it.
Go comatose for me, baby.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
People of low intelligence,
Thomas, where are you from?
Kansas.
Thomas, are you stupid?
No.
What's your major?
Kansas.
the uncultured,
Can you name a country that borders the United States?
Europe.
people who have different cultures,
There are only two things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
the Holocaust,
Heil Hitler.
death of infants. How many dead baby jokes have you heard? And people that are different and that already see difficulties in their lives because of it. And, pretty much anything else that would make us hurt if it were someone we loved dearly that it was happening to. But we don't take that view. It would be unpleasant to feel bad for that person. And it would hurt right in that part of us that's made in God's image, the soul. Put a shirt on, man. Seriously. We laugh at people screwing up tasks.
Pull the lever, Gronk.
Having coffee spilled all over them. Falling down. Getting hit in the most painful spots of the male anatomy. It's become a knee-jerk reaction to chuckle at anything that would cause us a great deal of embarrassment, discomfort, misery, or pain if we had been in that victim's place. But we don't take that view. It would be unpleasant to feel bad for that person. So we leap in exactly the opposite direction of our compassion and our empathy, and instead, we use the breaking laugh. Partially, we use it as a distraction from our decision not to empathize. And partially, we use it as a salve, a cooling ointment on a wound that never quite closes, even though the prankster laughs, as do the bystanders typically. The victim of a prank most often wear an expression of surprise and disbelief that a fellow human being, let alone a trusted friend, not only subjected them to this, but did it with the direct intent of their humiliation or their pain. And it was all done so that that friend could derive some enjoyment and some of that sweet, sweet breaking laugh. And that laugh, as f***ed up as it is, it still feels pretty good, doesn't it?
You're never safe.
I mean, it's no true joy, thorough nourishment, batteries recharged to full and bursting genuine laugh, but it's a decent stand-in, you know, fun facsimile, right? It's a little happy in a can. Honestly, it's a bad, cheap, market bootleg version of The Sound of Love, which is, of course, the main vein to happiness. Guys, look, we'll get back to all of that in a second. I need you to know that I get it. This is highly unpleasant to even consider that this is what we've been doing, and even more so to consider that this is what you've been doing. There's some part of you that's either racing to come up with some kind of counter-argument to this or just flat out refusing to believe it.
No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
I get it. I went through it 10 years ago. And if it isn't doing it yet, trust me.
Will, I trust you.
It's going to when we link all of this together. My mind argued so strongly against itself that I actually began to sincerely question my sanity. How could something like this be the truth and not be common knowledge? How could something like this run unchecked, barely hidden behind so many smiles? Literally right under our noses. Well, folks, that's exactly why I've been hammering the same thing repeatedly into your heads. You don't have to take my word for it. Look for yourselves. Try it out. Plug it in. See if it fits. Sound familiar? Now, seeing it everywhere did not help me at first. In fact, that was precisely what made me question whether or not I had truly lost my mind. I mean, if it wasn't true, and I saw it everywhere and believed it thoroughly, this is a pretty good indicator that I was pretty far gone, right? Except it was true. That voice that rejected the notion that said that I needed to go get mental health help was the analytical voice inside my head. So I tried to satisfy that part of me. I began studying gelotology, looking for traces of it in science and philosophy, physics, theology. I began searching for any hint of this hypothesis. And as it turned out, why we laugh, that's been a question that's plagued humanity since the first recorded philosophers. And I could see traces of the breaking laugh throughout their theories. And I continued to study and research, but the voice was never satisfied, no matter how much research. I was knee-deep in books that hinted at, but never said this particular hypothesis, but that you could see the impression of the hypothesis within it. And yet that voice kept going, of course you're seeing it everywhere.
Are you like a crazy person?
Until I did the other thing that I've been hammering into your head over and over again during this series. I talked about it with others. And that was it. I finally got what I needed. I saw the recognition of truth in their eyes. I saw them struggle internally with it. I saw one of two things happen. They either continued to struggle with it, or, well, some part of their brain pulled a last-ditch shutdown and stopped listening. Scientists have discovered that once we're confronted with truths that challenge long-held, well-invested beliefs, the same parts of your brain light up as when we're physically threatened. It initiates a fight or flight mode. But to be fair, there's some serious investment in there. I mean, how long have you been laughing, pranking, joking, being sarcastic, learning the subtleties and nuances, and probably pretty well practiced at it to the point where it's second nature, instinctual? Something like that is definitely going to fight back in the face of being overwritten by some punk newcomer. So, plug it in. Look around for a while with it in there. See if it's true. And then talk to somebody about it. Because that is where the real fireworks start to happen. Not only does it finally start to settle right, but your understanding of all of this will hit all new levels. Levels that I can't even lead you to because they will be your levels. Unique understandings. Plug in those levels and see if they're true. Wash, rinse, repeat. And you don't have to worry as much about your sanity as I do. The biggest reason for me was because I couldn't find anybody else that had pointed all of this out. It was so night and day obvious once I saw it that it seemed nearly impossible that I could be the one that stumbled across it. But you have me already telling you about it. And you have the other people that have seen could help. You can talk to us down in the comments. I just set up a Discord. The link is going to be in the video description. That you can join and talk to others that, well, they heard the same thing you did. You can show the video that you're thinking on to a friend and see if they find it to be true. So, okay, there's more. We're going to take it a step at a time, and do not forget, I've been working on this a long time. I've got you. Now, back to the victim of the prank. I know. Make a real honest effort to think from that victim's point of view, just for a moment. You're a social creature. You have friends and exist within a group of trust. And suddenly, you're cast unceremoniously outside, perhaps by multiple people, or perhaps just by the one friend that the rest huddled around. They chose something that they knew you would find undesirable and unpleasant, and did it intentionally because they knew you wouldn't like it. Now, pranksters will likely write this off as being overdramatic, but trusts have been betrayed. But of course, they allow you a way back in, a way of showing that you understand that they're just kidding. No harm, no foul, maybe some harm. And that, of course, you're still in the circle. You can't get rid of me that easily. And you use the breaking laugh on yourself, like a password of sorts. You literally laugh to show that you've distanced yourself from the compassion that you'd have for yourself for whatever you just went through, whatever you were just put through. If the victim gets angry, the others quickly turn to, oh, come on, oh, we're just funning you, and or that you need to grow a sense of humor. Laughter feels good, and they don't want you spoiling their harvest. They're only allotting a small, acceptable helping of compassion for what they've done to you, and once they reach, well, fine, be mad then. That's the point where they've passed the limit of how bad they're willing to feel about what they did to you. The breaking laugh is ephemeral, but it creates long-term breaks in our compassion. When we commit to this type of laughter, it becomes a practice. That's why I named it the breaking laugh. We choose it over having an empathetic reaction, and we break or numb our compassion bit by bit. And this is because of a choice that we made somewhere along the journeys of our lives. It's a governing rule that we set on ourselves, and that we will dive into next time, as well as why we erected this rule. I think I've dumped enough on your plate for the moment. So, for the moment, like it if you loved it, leave it if you thought it, subscribe if you dare, and share it if you care to see a bit more of this out there. You can do this. You have help.